Hi, everyone. I am here with Emily at Plant First, and this is going to be recorded for YouTube. I'm so excited to see you all here. I'm going to make sure that everybody is on mute. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we kind of jump in is if you have a question while we're chatting, just put it in the chat box. So, open it up, it's at the bottom of your screen towards the center, and just open up chat, and you can feel free to, if we answered something but you want us to expand on it, ask a chat. And Emily and I are both going to just be checking the chat. But if everybody can just stay off mute or stay on mute the whole entire time, just so that we don't have any frequencies, interferences, that is going to be great. So welcome. This is Emily and I's first live that we're doing together. So super excited for you to be here with me. And we both got a lot of questions.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm excited. This is fun. Liz and I have done two recent YouTubes, but it was just her and I. So it's fun to answer questions, what people want to know. I'm like, you don't know what people want to know. And so I'm always curious. Everyone's kind of education level, knowledge with this lifestyle. So I'm excited to answer some of what people had to
And
ask.
And I have to say, I love partnering with Emily on a bunch of these because we're alike in a lot of ways. And she's like my Starch Solution person that I need in my life. And so it's important to find that kind of person that we all can have. And her questions may be different than, the question she might get. My answer might be a little bit different based on just our personal experiences. So we are not physicians or recommending certain things. You have to do your own research. But I just want to point out that it's just nice to have somebody to kind of be able to talk to. And it's just been really amazing having her on my side. I'm constantly DMing her. Even me losing more than 50 pounds, I still have questions. And so that's why I'm like, we should just bring the questions here so that Emily and I can chit chat a little bit. So, Emily, you want to get started?
Yeah, okay. So got my little list here.
Yep.
Let's go with the first one. I'll ask you, someone was asking about start and stop times when eating.
Okay, well, so this one's fun. And I think, Emily, you and I are probably going to maybe have the same answer on this one, but I only actually eat when I'm hungry. And that's not how it used to be. I used to be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it needed to be like, this is the actual breakfast meal that I need. And so it's been just really nice to be intuitive. I remember people would be like, be intuitive with your body. And I'd be like, what does that mean? Like, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so just actually being able to say, am I hungry? Should I eat? And we as a society have gotten in such a place where we're like, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, where it's like, no, only eat when you're hungry. Is that what you would say, Emily?
Yeah, and to add on to that, it's not when you eat, it's what you eat. It doesn't timing doesn't matter. Your metabolism doesn't slow down after 7 p.m. What correlates a lot of times why people think, "Oh, I can't eat after 6 or 7," is because nighttime eating is usually correlated with ice cream, cookies, sweets, high-calorie foods, not your potatoes and broccoli. So it gets a bad rap of eating late night, but it's not when you eat the quote unquote right foods. That's not gonna hurt your weight loss like whenever you eat. So, I think people have that in their mind, but it's like the only reason nighttime eating is correlated with weight gain is because it's the Taco Bell, it's the, fast food. It's not the potatoes and broccoli and rice and. So that would be my only other thing is, eating when and the hunger fullness cues like that takes time. That didn't happen for me right away either. I was kind of like, what? Like you eat when you're hungry, but that has come with time. And then also just realizing like it doesn't matter when you eat. If I'm not hungry till 10 p.m., sometimes in the summer, I won't have dinner till 10 p.m. and it's totally fine.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it just comes with time, where
Yeah.
people always want this playbook of how you're supposed to do it, and it's almost intuitive, but it comes with time for sure. All right, next question. Recipes, prep work, planning, dishes, with busy life. This is probably not a good one for Emily and I because now we eat so simple.
I know. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do recipes. Yeah, the thing is, I used to be a chef when I first started eating this way, and it was so extravagant. I mean, I was cooking 100 plus meals a week and in a little tiny studio apartment, so I have, like, PTSD of doing dishes, and I don't even wanna do them for myself, so I think people with the planning, yes, you have to be prepped for success. You can't just like magically think, oh, the food's just going to magically appear in my refrigerator. You know, you do have to have some planning on like have your veggies, have your starches cooked. Maybe batch a soup for the week or a sauce, like little easy recipes like that. But doing a new recipe once a day, twice a day, that is a headache. No one's going to sustain doing that for long term. So yeah, like, don't make this harder on yourself by trying to eat this certain way and then come up with a million different recipes, always doing dishes, like, that is not going to be sustainable, and I learned the hard way too, like, I started out this life although I was pretty enamored with, like, cooking Starch Solution, it became a hobby for me, but once it became a career, it changed my whole outlook on cooking, so now I'm just like, wow, that life is not sustainable now with like all the recipes and the cooking and the dishes. So, yeah, like that's what I would say. Yes, you have to prep a little bit. It doesn't just magically happen, but people get way too hyper focused on recipes.
And I have to say, like coming from a standard American diet, it's so easy to like clean your dishes when you eat this way. Like I would
Mhm.
just like rinse out my steamer basket. Like I hardly even use soap because it's like there's nothing there after I've steamed my broccoli or
No
my
oil.
cabbage, right?
Yeah.
So like think about it as like it actually is so much easier because you're not like, like scraping a pan or like have grease or oil on stuff. Like it's actually like you can simplify it, like potatoes aren't even messy. Like even mashed potatoes aren't even messy,
Yeah. Like
So
you wash it with water. Like that's all I
yeah.
really do.
And that's why I always tell people like I literally like rinse out like my 50-50 dish and like
Mhm.
not even hardly even use soap on it because I'm just like,
That that's so funny.
I let it dry.
Yeah, my fiancé, like, I have my little corner in the sink that it's like the chair in your bedroom where the clothes aren't dirty or they're not clean. It's like my dishes because I have my bowl that I use, my big bowl that I use for, like, every meal and my steamer basket, and it's like I rinse it out with water, but it's just, like, in the sink, but I'm gonna use it for my next meal, so I'm always just like, "Don't dirty my dishes that are in the sink." It's weird living with someone. Like, when I was single, I could do that and no one knew, but I'm like, is that weird? I don't know, but it works. I don't ever do dishes.
I'm the same way, like with my oatmeal, like my saucepan that I use my oatmeal in, I just like put it right back on the stove for the next morning. Like I don't even
Yeah,
put it away because I just like know I'm gonna use it again. So like
yeah,
it actually like once you create this like method that Emily and I are talking about of like how you prep and do all these things, it's actually like you don't even think twice about anything anymore because it's
yeah,
just so
yeah.
it really is. All right, so Emily, I want you to talk about how not to be afraid of carbs.
Knowledge is power because, if we're for my whole life up until I read the Starch Solution book, like, this society has this fear of carbs and it's like, but what I feel like what society thinks of as carbs is like pizza, like carbs that are actually high in fat, like the actual dough of pizza, and if you have a fat-free marinara sauce on it and you just do it with roasted veggies, like that kind of pizza is very weight loss friendly. It's not causing weight gain, but what people think of as carbs is like pizza, but really it's the high oil sauce, it's the cheese, it's the meat. It's like, yeah, that's calorie dense. And so I think people one have carbs in their mind as is backwards. Also, my whole life I was always afraid of carbs. I was like the one person that was like, I'm going to show Dr. McDougall I'm not wired like every other human. Like carbs are not my number one fuel source. And then I started reading the book and it seriously like, of course that book changed our life, but just picking up that book and actually looking at the facts, not just hearing it from someone else, but doing your own little research, like it makes sense. Like, oh my God, why have I been like, this is literally our body's number one fuel source, how we burn calories, how we get our energy. Like, it just makes sense. So I have to say, like, when people come to me with questions about like carbs making them fat and this and that. Like I'm very hesitant. Like if they're on the defense, I'm very hesitant to like share. But if they're genuinely curious, like I just steer them to the book because I'm like, you can't deny these facts. So knowledge is power, and everyone should do a little bit of research. Like the Starch Solution is a great place to start. So that really got me into like, wow, carbs really, like they are not the enemy once you know the facts. So that's what I would say. I just people don't like to read. So I feel like people like want to just hear it. They just want to hear it from someone else. But I'm like, do a little bit of like research on it, and then it can actually like stick and stay with you. I don't know if that's the best
Yeah.
answer, but knowledge is everything.
It's interesting because people don't even like want to read like paragraphs, right? Let alone a book anymore. But it's like, knowledge is empowering. And so it's
Yeah.
like you have to find out. Like I remember when I switched over to Starch Solution, I was like, I'm gonna eat all these potatoes. And I almost just had to like do it to see if
Yes.
it worked.
Yes.
And then
It
like
was
the first week,
scary. It was
yes,
scary. Yeah.
that's scary. But like once I think you just have to jump in and do it. But
Just have
also,
to rip the Band-Aid. And
yes.
like I said, I wanted to prove Dr. McDougall wrong. And boy, he proved me wrong, or right? Whatever. I'm like, wow, he does know what he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
So worth it.
And I know that a lot of people come to you for weight loss. So talk to me a little bit. One of the questions was like, what's a weight loss expectation? Like, I don't know exactly about this question. Is like, how many pounds are people
Yeah.
losing? Kind of around that.
Yeah, and everyone wants to like know a number. Everyone wants to know how many calories to eat. What's my weight loss? What can I expect to lose in 6 months? Like that kind of thing. And it truly is so individualized. Like my clients who come to me and are wanting to lose 50 plus 100 pounds, their journey, like that weight loss is going to come off a lot faster because they're exerting more energy throughout the day. So they're burning more calories because they're a bigger person. So it could be 1 to 3 pounds a week. That would be very sustainable for someone wanting to lose 50 to 100 pound range. But I work with a lot of people in the and also, okay, so also age matters. Postmenopausal, that definitely comes into play. Your activity level, hormones, age, everything comes into play on my clients' like weight loss rate. And so I work with a lot of clients that are wanting to lose just like the 5 to 25 pounds. And a lot of my uh, clientele is postmenopausal, so it's also a different ball game. So like zero point 0.5 pounds a week is a lot for someone who is in that 5 to 25 pound range. So zero point 0.5 to 1 pound a week is very sustainable, is very normal for someone in that. But if the more weight you have to lose, it's going to come off faster at first. But as you lose more weight and you become a smaller person, you're therefore not exerting as much energy or calories anymore. So you're going to have to tweak your calorie intake, and it's going to come off slower or more slowly the less weight you have to lose.
Which I experienced that when I did my breaking my plateau with you, where it was like I was aiming for like a pound a week, and I thought that was like great.
Yeah,
And that
which
happened
that is a lot for like
a lot
someone like you or
for
I.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, staying compliant during a woman's menstrual cycle. You want to talk about that, Emily?
How about you do that one?
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
So I recently I've actually been jumping in a little bit more around my cycle and
Mhm.
like deciding like if I should be like really strenuous all the time, like 30 times a month, like every single day. So I've been actually doing a lot of research on this. And if you haven't read the women's book that Dr. McDougall um wrote, I like recommend that. It's just I don't know, I constantly go to it because I just think it's such a great
And
resource for
have you
women.
read Body in Balance by Neil Barnard?
Yes,
Those
so
two
good.
are
So
awesome.
good. Yeah. And so I've been jumping into it, and I think it's really important to like be in tune with your phases. Like a woman
Mhm.
has a phase,
Mhm.
all different phases, 4 phases of their menstrual period. And so like, also understanding like where is a craving coming from? Is it
Mhm.
just a craving? Is it something that you actually need? And like for me, I'm very like willful. So like
Yeah.
I don't let like myself be like, I need a piece of chocolate. Like
Yeah,
it's just
same.
not me. So I
Mhm.
can't speak to like that, but I would research the different phases of your cycle because
Mhm.
there are certain times where your mood changes, your activity level changes. Like there's certain during some of your phases, like it actually says to do like a lot of strength training compared to other
Yeah.
times, and so forth. And so like I actually did a master class about this because I find it really fascinating. Um,
Mhm.
around food, there's certain foods that like more fiber foods, but like a lot of us are on a plant-based lifestyle, so we're already getting all of these extra things within our diet. So it's not like we have to alter it that much, but just like being in tune and
Yeah.
going, like I have an aura ring, and so I track my cycle there. And so I love being able to do that. So like staying compliant, I think it goes back to like your mindset. Like
Yeah.
I
So
just because you have your period doesn't mean it's a crutch to
eat
binge
chocolate.
on something or like allow yourself to have chocolate. Like it, we tend to want to say because of this I can go and
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
Like
We give ourselves that's how we justify things, or
yes.
we correlate the two. Oh, it's I'm gonna have my period. Oh, that means I have to have chocolate. Like people just like correlate, they justify and then I also like to add on, I also think like it also depends like how long have you been whole food plant-based? If you are habitually eating chocolate or things that maybe you don't want to be eating, you're gonna crave them. Like you gotta give your taste buds some time. Like I know for me with my cycle, I don't really have cravings. I think I eat more. I eat more during it, but I don't really have cravings, but I think it's just because like I don't eat chips and chocolate and where my taste buds would remember that during those times. Like it's been so long. I've been eating this way for so long that it's just the rewiring. So I guess it just depends on the person. Like how long ago has it been since you ate chocolate? If it hasn't been that long, you're going to crave it during your period. And then also if you've told yourself it's my period, so I need chocolate.
Mhm. Yeah, correlating. I think that's a really good word that
Yeah.
you used is like it's like our crutch, where
Yes.
it's like it's so much more than that. It's like going deeper into like why are we having this craving? Why is our mind telling us that it's okay? It's really
Yeah.
mindset as well.
Yeah, same with holidays, people are like, "Holidays, I'm gonna overeat." They already make
Yeah.
that narrative before it's even happened.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like, "What?"
Yeah, that doesn't mean you need to do that. But yeah, it's the
How we're
justification.
wired for sure.
Let's see. Do you want me to answer that someone asked, "Do I have a hard stop with fat grams for
Yeah.
labels?"
Yeah.
Okay. On one of my YouTubes I did, I don't know what it was, but okay, I did kind of explain. I do have like a mile marker when I look at products, like plant-based products. And mine is like 3 grams or below when it comes to store-bought products, 3 grams per serving of fat. Anything higher is going to probably have oil in it, or if it is plant-based, it's probably going to be pretty heavy on the nuts and seeds. So I have just found when I'm looking for products, anything higher than 3 grams, then I'm like, oh, let me look at the ingredients. And either there's going to be oil in it, or it's going to be coconut milk, or it's going to be higher in nuts and seeds. That's just how it happens. Again, if it's a non-vegan product, then there's going to be other milk that's higher, in calories and oil, of course. So yeah, when I'm looking at plant-based products, I look at about 3 grams as my like threshold on anything, whether it's like cream cheese or cheeses or sauces or whatever. Because anything more than that, it's typically going to mean there's oil in it or higher calorie dense food.
Great. All right. Next question. Biggest challenge being consistent. I don't have an issue with consistency now that I can speak to, but I think a lot of it is habits and behaviors, adjusting those and like rewiring what those look like. And Emily and I recently did like our 3 phases of weight loss. And in all of those phases, Emily and I can probably speak to what we had to change or evolve, right? From a consistency standpoint, because you learn something, you start doing it. Then, I lost, 30 pounds and then I wanted to lose an additional 20 pounds. And so my habits had to change a little bit. So, I don't have that issue now, but I would look at your habits and behaviors and look at what are those and how is it impacting you being consistent? What would you say, Emily?
That along with, I think people try and make this way too hard on themselves. Again, trying to become a five-star chef in this lifestyle and eating this way, like, that's not gonna be sustainable. How I look at it is anything I do on my day-to-day basis, I literally am like, "Can I see myself doing this into my 90s?" Seriously. Like, I'm like, everything I do, my amount of cooking I do, my amount of dishes, the amount of exercise, AKA walking that I do, I literally could do this until my 90s. Like, so if you look at your life and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't imagine doing this the rest of my life." That's not gonna work. You need to change your habit, your whatever you're doing during the day because that's not going to be long term. That's gonna be short term. That's kinda like these meal plans you buy online. Sure, it could work for a week or 2, but are you really gonna do that? So, I literally I have broken my day down, like, meal by meal, habit by habit, and I'm like, "I could do this easily well into my 90s." And that's how I know for me, this is sustainable and I can do this consistently without it being white knuckling.
Mhm. I love that you make that as a point because like you and I love to walk, and so that's something you can always do.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
Right?
I'm not gonna be doing HIIT workouts when I'm 80, years old, so I'm like sometimes I'm like, I try everything, but I just know on a consistent I just know myself. I'm like, I kinda only do things that I'm like, I can see myself doing for a long time. I don't do things for, like, just because they're a fad or whatever, so that's just who I am.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, social issues when eating this way. I'm gonna have you speak to this just because you coach
Okay.
about this a lot.
Um, yeah, I wish this was a little more detailed. I okay, for in the beginning of this journey when I was more insecure about my knowledge, my experience, because I started 9 years ago and this was still not very well known. I didn't have my Instagram. I had no one. I was just on an island by myself trying to like preach this. I'm like, guys, no oil, no oil. And they're like, no, So I learned really quickly to not preach this to anyone. This is like my thing. And then also when you're in the moment, people like you feel like you need to have all the knowledge and I'm like not someone when I'm caught off guard to like be like stringing out all this information that I know like I just don't do that. So I think in the beginning I cared a lot more what people thought and because I was questioning my own self. I was like, I wasn't where I was weight wise. I was still like overweight. I wasn't happy. But then as my confidence grew, as I saw like all the results happening, and then once people could start seeing it on myself too, the less I had to explain or felt no one ever needs to explain why they're doing something, but I did at the time. And like once people started like looking at me and like, whoa, okay, this no oil thing, like she's onto something. So all I have to say is like I now have street cred. No one questions me now, but 9 years ago, family, best friends, no one believed me. And I just knew I was like, the only reason I have stuck with what I'm doing and made it into a career is because I have never believed in anything more. So I'm actually shocked that I didn't let all the peanut galleries steer me away. Um, so I just think it comes with confidence and it comes with you feeling good and secure about this way of eating. And it is all show, not tell. And people, but that confidence doesn't happen overnight. And so with social situations, like at this point, I do not care. Like if I have to tweak my meal if we're at a dinner or whatever, I'm like, I'm the one who has to go home with myself after this dinner. If I ate shitty just because I wanted to please someone else or not make them feel uncomfortable, like, no, I'm the one who has to go to bed at night and then my stomach's gonna be upset. So I'm like, I put myself first and I don't care what anyone else thinks.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think like the common theme that you can see from possibly Emily and I is like we're pretty like straight and narrow, like dedicated, right? And it's like you have to find that for yourself of like wanting it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to want to do this. Like if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like, you have to be committed. You have to want this enough. Like, I don't work with clients anymore who are, like, on the verge of wanting to go plant-based. I work with clients who are like, "No, I want this to work. Just help me how it works?" Because I need people that are committed in both feet in.
For sure.
Like, that
Um,
was kind of a
how
roundabout
to
way, but
The next question is how to transition to this lifestyle living with a meat eater. And I think
Is
you and I
your
both.
husband a meat eater?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I
Same
mean,
with
we're both kind of in that same boat. And so, I will never forget one time I was on a call with Dr. John McDougall, and he just said, that's just not your food.
yeah,
And I literally was like, oh my goodness, that's like exactly the thing to say. And
yeah,
so, like, I remember, like, in my breaking my plateau when I lost weight, like, my husband was eating like popcorn and I was eating like fruit at night or something. And there was like a glimpse of me that was like, poor me, right? Like, I can't indulge. And I thought, no, that's just not my food. That's just like not the food that I eat. So that's what I always say is like, that's their food and this is my food. And that's just like how life plays out. And
mhm,
I always say to people like, make your starch, make your vegetable, and if they want a protein or they want a meat, add the meat to the dish. And it's super easy. You just have to add one more element to the meal for
yeah.
that person if you do cook for that person.
Yeah. No, same 2 things to same thing with that is, like, make if you're the person doing the cooking, I'm very thankful my fiancé cooks. He loves cooking. That's his thing. I'm like, "Great, because 'cause I'm not cooking for you." But if you are cooking for just make the base meal compliant, so it's no oil, meat, or dairy, and then when it comes to them, so say if you're making tacos, you make bean and rice veggie tacos with salsa, they can put some chicken on it and cheese on it. So the base of whatever you're making is your compliancy and they add on. The second thing I'm going to add is when you're transitioning, you have to put on your oxygen mask first. You can't expect to change someone else if you haven't changed first. So, and then also like again, it's the show not tell. If your spouse starts to see like all these amazing results and feeling good and everything, they're going to just start to become more curious because, I know for my fiance like I I don't know how much more I could show him, not tell him because of what I do, but he is someone that like yeah, he would need to see it to believe it. And so I think focus on yourself first. Like you need to get this wired into yourself before you can even help someone else. Um, so yeah, put on your oxygen mask first before you worry about someone else. And and then it just happens. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out how to cook. But yeah, step one, yourself.
Okay, perfect. All right, you want to do the next question?
Yeah. The long one.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can answer it. Yeah.
I find that when I eat any foods that are not in whole food form, I get a dopamine spike and I want to keep eating. Sometimes it will send me into a binge and restrict cycle and the all or nothing mentality. How do you allow the occasional treat or taste of decadent foods without losing control?
I'll let you answer it.
You want me to answer that? Okay. So, yes, I am very much wired as an all or nothing person. Very black and white. I've been that way since I was a little kid. That is just who I am. So, having to do like this rewiring, and being an all or nothing person, sometimes it is great. Like sometimes that is a great trait in a lot of people and a lot of things. But when it comes to food, no, it does not work. It does not work to be black or white. I've done that and I've always gained the weight back when I have to like white knuckle it and I feel like I'm on a diet. So something that I started doing and what I do with a lot of my clients, because most of my clients are the perfectionists, are the all or nothing people. In this one area of life, food, it doesn't work. And so for me, a lot of my binge foods have changed, obviously, like even healthy foods. So like when I went plant-based, some of my binge foods were dates and peanut butter. And so for a while, don't dangle the candy bar in front of the toddler or whatever they say. Like I did have to take them out of my house. I needed to like I couldn't control cuz myself at that time because it was like too I was still too insecure and I already kind of felt like shit. I wasn't at my weight goal, so I was like, "Oh, F it, like, I'm just gonna have it." When you feel better about yourself and you're on a good, like, consistency trend, you're kinda like, "Oh, that stuff doesn't sound so appealing." So, sometimes it's better to omit for a while than to moderate, but then when you get to a place where you're feeling good, I I really promote adding some of those things back in very, very slowly. And I do that so you won't hold these foods on a pedestal. So, what I started doing is because if I had a date, I would have like 20 dates. So then every day I started to add 2 dates a day to my day. So every day I have 2 dates. I stopped because I could have it, I stopped putting it on a pedestal, so I stopped binging on it. So it wasn't this like glorified food anymore. So a lot of times with my clients will play around with their foods that are scary, bread. People a lot of times people are scared with bread or peanut butter, but we're like, trust me, if I show you you can do a little bit each day, nothing bad's going to happen. You're going to take these foods off the pedestal because you can have them. So I think that's what helped me so much. Um, reintroduce those foods and not be afraid of them because nothing bad happened when I had them in moderation. Moderation is very, very hard though. That is Americans are not good at moderation. I'm not good at moderation. So it did take me for a point to like omit things and feel secure in my body and confident and then start to add them back in.
Yeah, and I would agree because you and I have talked in the past where I'm like, nuts and seeds, I'm just better if I don't have them. Like, because I can't control myself. So I really just don't even add them to sauces anymore. I would
Yeah.
never go to grab them because I can't stop. Like, and that's all in transparency of like, I just know that I'm like that, so I won't have them.
Yeah.
And so,
And
like,
again,
moderate,
that
you just
yeah,
have to do it yourself.
exactly, and that it has come with time. I mean, I've been on this whole food plant-based journey for 9 years, and I was a binge eater since I was a little girl, so, like, this didn't happen overnight. Like, I've done a lot of rewiring, mind shifting, a lot of reading, a lot of different programs, so for everyone else struggling with that, like, this it didn't happen overnight, and it is a journey, and most clients I work with, I would say 98% deal with binge eating, emotional eating. So, yeah, I'm very aware it's a process, but you can get over it. But yeah, that's a trick that I use is like after you're confident, you get to a confidence level, let's try and slowly add those back in. But what people do is they're like, "Ooh, I can have it." And then they add it way too fast, way too much, and then they gain weight and they're like, "See, I can't have it." And it's like, "No, it's because you ate 3 cups of nuts." Like, yes, that's gonna, instead of
Yeah.
2 tablespoons or whatever.
Yeah, I remember when you were coaching me, you're like, "Are you sure you don't wanna, like, add that in? Are you
Yeah,
sure? Are you sure?" And I was like, "No, because
yeah,
I'm just good where I'm at, and that's where I need to be." And you're like, "Cool, if you're full, satisfied, you don't need it,
yeah.
don't even do it." And I'm like, "Thank you. It was
If my
good,"
clients
right?
are feeling deprived, then I'm like, "That's not sustainable, we need to fix that. Because if you're white knuckling something, but you weren't, I knew you weren't white knuckling, so I didn't push it, I'm like, "She's actually good." So every individual is very different.
Yeah,
So that's
and that leads kind of to the next question. Somebody asked how to avoid sweets at cafes when eating out with family. Like, I think for me, it's just like knowing that it's not my food. Maybe I would eat ahead of time or bring my own little snack or something like that. Like, you have control as a
yeah,
human on how you're going to respond in these situations. And so I just want to remind you, like, Emily and I are like black and white. Like, we're like boom, 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 boom. It's like you almost, like, need to get into that state of mind to some degree if you want something.
yeah, yeah, and I did a thing on my Instagram, it was about, like, someone had asked me, or I've gotten the question a lot, like, "Do you feel like this is a restrictive way of eating?" And I was like, "Genuinely, no," because I have control over this one thing in my life. I don't have control over many things in my life, but the one thing I do is what goes in my mouth. And by controlling what goes in my mouth, I have control over everything else, or I can manage my emotions with everything else because what I put in my body is how I feel good. And when I feel better about myself, like I can just manage issues, stress, problems. And so by having control of the one thing, it makes me have freedom with everything else. So that's the other way to look at it too. If anyone's like, "Oh, I feel like I can't have that," like you're focusing on the negative. By not having that cinnamon roll, like how great are you going to feel after? How proud of yourself are you going to feel after? And that gives you freedom by controlling this one aspect in your life.
It's super empowering. Like when I lost the weight, it felt super empowering, but like every meal that I like shifted and changed
Mhm.
empowered me to go further, to
Yeah.
want more. And it's
Mhm.
it's so empowering. So it's like getting to that place but a lot of it is mindset for sure.
It's like a high almost because 'cause you're like it's like this it's the dopamine hit
Yeah.
actually, that the natural dopamine hit about crushing your goals and doing what you set out to do. It's like that feels really good. Yeah, so that I like we did good answering that. That's how I would
Yeah,
say.
for sure.
Um, let's see. Okay, I'll ask you this question. Just starting the Starch Solution, what do you recommend I eliminate first? Mm,
I would say oils, like get oils out. I mean, not only are like seed oils so unhealthy for you, like people, it's so funny because like general public now is like stay away from seed oils, but that wasn't the story even like 2 years ago,
I
but it's the story now. And I'm like, y'all, I was way ahead of this, right? Dr. McDougall knew this way before all of like the seed oils. And so get away from oil. Like, I think if you can start eliminating that and understanding calorie density with oil, it's where it's at.
100% agree. Whenever clients or non-clients, so like friends or whatever, they are interested in the life, like, because the three things are like eliminate meat, dairy, oil. And I'm like, if anything, you guys start with the oil. That one, it's going to shed so much calories off of your day, and you may even just start to see some results then. And then let's talk about the dairy. Then let's talk about the meat. But I say the same thing. Oil, get rid of the oil first and foremost. It's just
Yeah.
empty calories.
Yeah. And your kitchen will love you not having the oil.
Same, I know. I'm like, "Okay, win-win."
Okay, so the one of the questions is about taste buds, and I know that you and I have talked about this numerous times, even when you were coaching me. Is I was like, I admired you because you ate so simple, you
Mhm.
had adjusted your taste buds, and I wanted to get to that place. And I remember you and I talking about it, where I think you said like you were like day 60 or something, or I was like day 75. But if you can speak to kind of like just the general,
Yes. So I run, well, it was 10-day challenges and now it's 21-day challenges, but through that, my 10-day challengers would literally on like day 10, they would talk about their like scale and non-scale wins, and they would seriously be like, "Oh my God, like I'm not craving this anymore, but I'm craving potatoes and broccoli." Like the things that they want to crave for their goals, they start to crave it. So I think I don't know the science, but it's somewhere between like 14 to 21 days like of not having something to rewire your taste buds. Um but I think it's more so about a habit. And when like I 3 months, 90 days for me was like a huge change in my habits. Like, I guess the taste buds, it did happen pretty quickly, but it was more so, I think, within 3 months is where like not only my taste buds, but my habits started to just become like normal and natural. So I think it's a cross between taste buds and securing your habits. And securing your habits take longer than it does to change your taste buds. I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, because I think I said in my breaking my plateau, I was like, wow, like 75 days, I was like, this is my jam. I have
Yeah.
it under control. Like I'm not craving things.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it
it's
takes
great.
time, but again, if you keep trickling in the little things, like, your taste buds are gonna remember, and I'm not saying it has to be all or nothing, but if you are really trying to rewire, it does help to omit for a while.
Mhm. A little bit of tough love from Emily.
Yes.
Um, Go ahead.
Okay, the next one is how tall are you and Emily, which I think is so funny, because we're both so petite. I'm 5 feet, and
I'm
you're
5'1".
yeah.
I like to say I'm 5'2", but I'm really 5'1".
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm not like any over I'm like, I could maybe even be 4'11", but,
I used to say when I would eat like a standard American diet, I'd be like, if I ate like a hamburger, you would see it on me. Because
yes,
like anything
no,
I eat, because I'm so short, it would like replicate on my body. And I'd be
oh, I
like,
know. I'm like
oh,
5 pounds on me, like,
yes.
oh, it doesn't have very far to go, so I'm like, it's a blessing and a curse being this small because if I lose weight, it is pretty noticeable pretty fast, but if I gain weight, really noticeable really fast.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I'm like tall, like people who are like women who are like tall and have like long legs. I'm like, at least they can like spread it out. We always want what we
You know, a
can.
lot more than me because it has more area to go in.
Yeah, yeah. You and I are just like, boop. Okay, so let's both answer this one. What is one thing you wish you would have known when starting to eat Starch Solution?
All right. I wish I understood and I jumped in with the simplicity method that you really taught me when we worked together. Is just like, what is your starch and what is your vegetable? Like, if you just have to make those two decisions every single meal, like you can simplify and you won't want to make recipes. Like I used to think I was like a recipe creator like 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm like, no, that is not me. Go find somebody else because that's not me. Because it wouldn't work for my lifestyle now. So I wish I understood the basic simplicity of how easy it actually is to eat this way.
Yeah, same. I don't regret any of my journey because it got me to where I was. Like being extravagant with this way of eating got me, I became a chef out of it. So I'm like, that's cool. Like, but if I was to say one thing that I wish I knew, I would say I wish I knew calorie density a little bit more. Um, I didn't fully grasp it until 5 years into this way of eating when I actually went through the McDougall program, and I was like it just hit home. Maybe just sometimes hearing it 100 different ways, like, sometimes it's just that one time that really sticks, and so for some reason, when I actually went through the program 5 years in, that's when everything shifted for me. That's when I was able to, like, lose the last pounds and really understood food and building plates and everything, and that's what I, like, specialize in now. So, it all happened for a reason, but if I was to say one thing, I wish I knew that sooner, more of that sooner.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. This was somebody that asked me because all these questions, Emily got questions and then I got questions. This one says, what was it like working with Emily when you did your series? So now I get to brag about Emily for a little bit, which is kind of fun. I had originally said that I started working with her because I started seeing a lot of people just being able to eat simple, like literally a potato and a vegetable. And I was like, whoa, I don't think I could ever be that person. Like, I like food too much. I was like, ooh, I'm a foodie. And I'm like, I need to retrain my palate. I also wanted to get to my optimal weight, as Dr. John McDougall had always talked about when I did the programs and things like that, where he would be like, people can get to their optimal weight. And then, like his team would be like, that's a variation, right? But I'm like, I'm gonna listen to Dr. McDougall. I want to get to my optimal weight. And I wanted to like understand what that meant for me. And I was able to learn that working with Emily and getting to my lowest weight as a grown adult by just eating super, super simple. And like, in the 16 weeks, Emily and I didn't have to like change a lot because my body was just responding well. But I also like only ate rice, oats, and potatoes and vegetables. Like I hardly even ate any like beans and tofu at the time because I just needed to train my brain. This whole call is about like habits, behaviors, like understanding yourself, like the mindset. Like that's what I had to get right. And like I think it was one of the best gifts that I've given myself, to be honest, because it literally gave me the food freedom that I always talk about now. Is like it gave me a place to understand food and not have food overpower my life, like Emily was talking about. Like it's not even an issue, it's not even a thing. I just like I haven't even eaten today and it's 11:45, right? Like I'm not hungry. And so I may, eat in a little bit, but like I'm not worried about my next meal. I'm not worried about anything. And just having Emily be there for like the accountability standpoint, like she was always around. And so it goes back to this like black and white. Like I needed an accountability partner to like send my meals to and like have that. And that's exactly what Emily was. So I'm like, I can sing Emily's praises all day long because it was such a transformational journey. And like, I look back at that, Emily, and I'm like, I'm so glad I documented that.
I know.
It's a
I am too.
story to tell. It's a story
Yeah.
to tell. And it's so cool. And I made like meal plans around it. And like, it was just really, it was a beautiful experience. So
Yeah.
I'll
No,
forever be
it was so
thankful.
great because, when you asked me to, like, work with you, I was like, "What?" Like, she knows this life. Literally, her Instagram account is Starch Solution, and But I loved it because it's like 2 very experienced people, 2 brains are better than 1, and, like, it was so fun to, like, also see your transformation. I mean, Liz, I'm pretty sure you got straight A's your whole life. I was just like, you were the most, like, consistent, but because she showed me everything and was so transparent, that's the one thing I ask of my clients. I'm like, "If you are showing me everything, I only know what I know." So, if my clients aren't showing me stuff, I'm like, I can't help if I don't see things. But Liz showed me every single thing. And that's why, like, when it came to week by week tweaking, it wasn't a lot, but it was like just enough because I had visualized all of her plates to be like, we're just going to do this a little bit more. That, it was tiny. And then you also follow directions very well.
Yeah, and I
And
don't like to break rules. So like I'm a
no,
rule follower. So like if Emily was like, you need to send me everything, I'm like, okay. But then it trains your mind. Like if you went to go grab a donut, I would say, ooh, I have to show Emily this.
yeah.
That doesn't feel good. I just
Yeah.
paid all this money to invest in myself and now I'm gonna go eat a donut. Like, think
And
about
it
that.
Yeah, and it's great. It's like I tell my clients, I'm like, either way, if you eat the donut, still you had to pause and think about it. You had to send it, so you're gonna eat it with intent, or you're gonna ask yourself, do I really want this? And then you're not gonna eat it. Either way, my whole thing is like, let's get you eating with intent, whether it be compliant or not compliant. And so that's the big thing. What I have, I'm like, literally, my clients utilize that I'm a hand holder, that I want to see. I don't know many coaches, some coaches, they just see once a week what their clients do. And I'm like, oh no, meal by meal. I want to, nip this in the bud. So no, we were a great team to work together. And I'm so glad you put it on YouTube because like I get so many clients from you too. So thank you.
Of
They're like,
course, because I
yeah,
don't think that there's enough coaches out there that actually do like one-on-one.
there's
Um,
not.
a lot of
There,
people put you in like programs, which you have
yeah.
programs too, but you offer like the one-on-one, like back and forth, which I think is great. So
Because it's like I do my 21-day challenges 4 times a year, but, like, the one-on-one, there is no 2 clients alike. Like, is it I yes, I have my new program I came out with, and it's my bible, but then when I'm actually working with you, it's like it is so different. Like I said, some people wanna add the nuts, add the pasta, and we can make it work. It all can work. It just depends on what's gonna work for my client, and I'm like, I've been doing this for so long now, I'm just like, it is not one size fits all. So, the one-on-one is a game changer, especially for someone already eating this way. A lot of times it is just like the little tweaks that make the massive difference, and the habits and the accountability, so,
yeah, and I mean, mine was I wanted to get to my optimal weight, and I ended up losing like more than 18 pounds.
yeah.
And I needed to understand food better and
Mhm.
simplify my meals. And
Yeah,
because of that, all of this happened, which is great. All right, somebody left we'll do one last question
okay.
in the chat, and it says, do you pack food with you when you leave the house? And if so, what are some of your go-to options? I like fruits and veggies. Like that's kind of my go-to thing. I know that Emily, you do hiking and stuff, so maybe talk about like
Yeah.
stuff that you take to go.
Yeah, like, if I'm just, like, running errands throughout the day in my town, like, fruits and veggies is always what I bring. But I do a lot of snow skiing and a lot of hiking, which I have to go into the mountains to do. It's a drive, and then it's exerting a lot of energy. So, I always eat, like, oatmeal before. I'm always, like, even I'll up my oatmeal, be knowing what my day is going to entail. But I bring, like, PB&J sandwiches. I'll bring like rice cakes. I will bring like a bean and rice, like bean and rice wrap. So something just easy, a little bit. Well, the bean and rice wrap isn't really that much more calorie dense, but like the peanut butter and jelly is. But those things, like, I don't necessarily have for volume. I know I'm not going to be like, ooh, it's going to really hit a satiation spot, but I eat it more as fuel. So it does give me the fuel and the energy to complete my 12-mile hike or whatever, snow skiing. So I do always, always, always pack food when I'm doing something like that. But if it's just in my day-to-day errands, I'm going to be gone for a few hours, fruit and veggies with like my hummus, or my queso dip or something. That's always my little fast food, that I pack.
I also found out too, like if you make a sushi roll and just cut it in half, you have like two pieces.
Like
That's a really
burrito.
good to
Yeah.
eat. well. And like it's sushi you can eat cold. So, from that standpoint.
I'll, if I'm, like, in a bind or something and either an Asian restaurant or even my grocery store makes avocado or cucumber rolls, honestly, that's, like, my fast food. Like, I'll just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna pop in and grab a roll." I still have hours left, to do something, so I'll either call in a sushi place, have them whip me up a cucumber roll or 2, or I'll pop in my grocery store if I'm near that, and, like, that's typically my fast food. So instead of Taco Bell, I go and grab a sushi roll, and so that's my go-to.
Yeah.
Or a
Yeah.
Wendy's burrito. I don't think we have a Wendy's here, but in San Diego, or no, not burrito, sorry, potato.
Hmm. Oh,
It's
yeah. So that's a
plain.
really good idea too.
Yeah,
It's,
so I would be out and I'm like, "I honestly just need some fuel right now," which AKA a potato is great. So they do plain, no oil, no butter potatoes with, like, barbecue sauce. So that in San Diego was my fast food.
yeah, yeah, cool. Well, oh my goodness. Well, that was fun. We had quite a few
I know,
questions.
I thought we were gonna go 30 minutes, and I think it's after.
Here we are. Here we
Well,
are. Perfect. Great. We're getting some comments. Thank you so much for doing this. I loved it. Somebody said, so will you two ever think about doing an app together? I'm not sure. Like an application or something? Like a weight loss app or something. I think maybe that's what they're referencing.
feel like there's more collabs in our future. Like, what it's I as you know, I've seen some people in our world, like, collaborating, and collaboration is hard in a way because we have very similar aspects, but we're also a little bit different. Like, we teach different things, but in terms of, like, people in this world, like, you and I are very similar, so I definitely feel like we have more collabs of some sort this year
I do
happening.
too. Yes, for sure. And that's where it's just fun to kind of like get two sides, right? Like here's
Yeah,
how Emily does it, here's how Liz does it, right? But like at the same time, like there's a lot of commonality, but there's a
yeah.
lot of things that you can learn from Emily that I
Mhm.
don't know, right? And
Yeah,
vice versa based on certain topics. So that's why some of these questions I was like, Emily, you answer that because like
yeah,
you're more scientific, you have a lot of that experience. So
yeah,
I just appreciate that because I always ask you questions as well.
yeah, I know, it's, great to be able to bounce things off of
Yes.
people.
Yes, and, so this will be a replay on my YouTube channel, so I'll probably upload it in, like, an hour or 2, so it will be there live so that you can, watch it at any time. So, I appreciate you being here today, Emily. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
no, this was great, we'll do it again for sure.
Yep. Until next time, everybody.
Okay, bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.